Hello everybody, welcome back to part 2 of these little ones. Oh, hold on, my cat. Disclaimer, please do not attempt to contact anybody you see on the screen, anybody that comes up in this video. This is all commentary and opinion based on a publicly available documentary. Viewer discretion advised, trigger warning, contains graphic and disturbing images and details relating to the crimes against children and humanity. And where we left off on part 1, we're talking about specifically CPS trafficking, the story of this couple and their baby named Cyrus. Cyrus is a very young baby, less than a year old. They had rescheduled one of his doctor's appointments, and that was really all it took for CPS to basically come get him. They were out with their family at night. They get pulled over, and the cops tell them that detectives are looking for them and things like that. And the next thing you know, like, it turns into this big thing where a whole bunch of cops descend. And I'm starting to get a theory that any time that they need like more than 10 cops at a place at once, it's because there's a deep state thing going down, and they need cops that are part of their little fraternal order. You know what I mean? Possibly the Masonic Lodge, I don't know. But there are clearly some cops that are actually trying to help this family and telling the mom, oh yeah, there shouldn't be a problem for you to ride in the ambulance with your baby. But unfortunately, there are more superior, higher up the chain cops there who say, oh no, we don't want her to know what hospital we're taking the baby to. And it was just it was very hard to watch. It was extremely hard to watch. You see this mom, scared, desperate, you know what I mean, willing to comply and do anything to keep her child with her, and it just didn't matter. They had already made up their mind. That was kind of the point. They had already made up their mind. And not only that, this big mean cop who is acting, oh my God, like he needs to lose his badge. For real, he really needs to lose his badge. He was sitting there talking to her how can you twist it? Make someone feel like a bad mom for not wanting to let go of their child. I don't know. But that's basically what he was doing. And he said, well, here's the thing. You can either give him to me willingly, or we'll take him by force and we'll arrest you. And then she said, I'm not going to give him up willingly. And then he basically says, he comes up to her, about to snatch the baby out of her arms, says, you don't want to hurt him, do you? It's actually, no, dude, you're the one who's hurting him. She's holding him like she's supposed to, like a mom, and you're the one coming up and trying to snatch him from her arms. And, because she doesn't want to hurt her baby, she lets him go. She lets him go to this stranger who's talking to her like she's trash, who probably doesn't even know the real reason he's taking this baby from her. He's just like a robot, you know what I mean? And then she lets him go willingly. They still arrest her. It is wild. It is wild. It is so hard to watch. It is so sad. And these situations happen every day. I know everybody likes to think that our government basically are good guys. The cops are mostly good guys. Some of them are, as you saw in the previous video. Some of them are. Some of them were actually trying to help her, who didn't understand why it would be a big deal for her to ride in the ambulance with her child, for her to know which hospital her child is. That's her. It's supposed to be a right. But you see, the thing is, they had already made up their mind that she was unfit, all these other things. And when you do that, when CPS does that, they can literally take your child to a place you don't know about. They legally kidnap your child. There's really no other word for it. They legally kidnap your child. So that's basically where we left off. The cops come, they kidnap baby Cyrus, take him from his mom, don't want her to know which hospital he's at. Lord knows what they had to do to get him back, or if they even did get him back. I'm not sure. We haven't gotten that far in the documentary. But let's get back into this documentary.
After having been in this system, and it is a growing criminal political phenomenon spreading around the globe.
This is a spiritual battle. This is not new.
this goes back thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this literally goes back to the very beginning.
In order to understand this present darkness, of course we had to uncover its origins in the past. There was no other man more qualified than biblical archaeologist Henry B. Smith Jr. of the Associates for Biblical Research.
Archaeology is a tool that can be used properly and carefully as an apologetic resource, as an education.
I have no idea what he's about to tell us. I have no idea. I would just like to state up front that, like I said, I don't know what he's about to say. But in my opinion, you know what? Let's just see what he's about to say, because I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Resource is a biblical resource to help people understand that what we find in Holy Scripture are not stories, they're not myths. These are actual events that took place in time and space. And the sovereign God who reveals himself in Scripture has preserved these things in Scripture for us to understand human history, to understand our need for salvation.
Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Yeah, the problem with that is the what you say, God in the Old Testament is a pretender. He's not the real God. He's not the God Jesus was talking about. Not at all. He had that thing in the Old Testament had no love in him whatsoever. And one could argue he started the child trafficking trade. I mean, I'm dead serious. Let's not forget that once he convinced like Moses and Joshua to go into the land of the Canaanites and to slaughter, kill. And you remember the few that they were allowed to keep alive, right? Were the little girls, girls. So that way the Israelites could have sex slaves, basically. And these were children. These were girls who hadn't had their periods yet. So these were children. Okay. Whatever that thing was, he was not the real God. Okay. And he encouraged this behavior. And it's like really right in front of you, black and white. It's sad. It's like a spell that is placed on this Bible where people just, they have eyes and can see it, but that they don't see it. You know what I mean? It's pretty clear though. I mean, it's pretty clear. But anyways, if you want to know more about how I feel on that topic, you can always go visit my other YouTube channel where I talk in great detail about things like that. But with all that said, I believe in the God Jesus was talking about. I think he was trying to warn us that the God in the Old Testament was no good. He was up to no good. Anyways, more on that in my other YouTube channel. Let's get back to the documentary and let's see what he has to say.
That we have a sin problem, a very wretched and deep one that needs a redeemer. Jesus warns his hearers, and he uses this very powerful picture of putting a millstone around the neck of someone being tossed into the sea.
It would be better for them to be thrown into the sea with a millstone tied around their neck than to cause one of these little ones to stumble. So watch
Totally agree.
yourselves.
Unfortunately, in history and even in the modern day, that children are attacked, abused, and in many cases even kidnapped and murdered. One of the first passages that we see in the Old Testament is both in Leviticus 18 and 20, and it refers to what seems strange to the modern reader at first glance, is the practice of child sacrifice. Particularly, we have mentioned in these passages where God is giving
okay, let's not pretend like the child sacrifice wasn't going on with the Israelites. They like to act like they were better than all their neighbors in the neighboring countries. But in reality, the Israelites were doing some questionable things. You know what I mean? They were doing some questionable things. And they were also sacrificing children. You know what I mean? Like Joshua sacrificed his firstborn and lastborn son to build the wall of Jericho. Am I getting that right? Was that Joshua or was that Caleb? I don't know, but one of the leaders did. So, like, they were not above child sacrifice. Not at all. But continue.
Absolute commands to the Israelites not to participate in the sacrifice of their children, to give them over to Molech.
Yeah, to not sacrifice their kids to Moloch or Baal, but to sacrifice them instead to Yah. Anyways, it gets me frustrated. It gets me really frustrated. I'm really trying to break the spell.
What we see in these warnings in the Old Testament that God is warning the Israelites are not just mere inventions. The Israelites are not just making up these gods, but they actually exist. All of it, though, involves the giving over of small children, usually very small from what we understand from the archaeological evidence, to these gods. In the book of Jeremiah, we see a mention of it that it looked like it was taking place in the valley of Hinnom, right outside the city walls of Jerusalem. What's interesting about that is eventually that place gained the name Gehenna, which Jesus uses the motif for hell. Now, when we think about the practice of child sacrifice in antiquity, people in the West often think of this as some barbaric practice of the world in the past. People kind of like want to close their eyes to the parallels that we have with the practice of abortion. The only distinction from a human standpoint.
Wow, he makes a fantastic point. He really does. And listen, I don't really have an opinion on whether it should, on the political side of abortion. I really don't have an opinion on that. But he does make a really good point here. I do know the origins of like Planned Parenthood, and it's not a good origin story. Let me just put it to you that way. It's not good. I mean, Planned Parenthood was started by Nazis, and I'm not saying that to be mean, like to name call any group. No, I'm talking about like literal Nazis, like from Nazi Germany. Same Nazis who gave us the what we call the blueprint for our MK Ultra program that the CIA used. Of course, I know they say that the Nazis had the original blueprint for that. I don't believe that. I believe that the Nazis were using like the Old Testament as like their blueprint for mind control. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I have a whole YouTube channel that I talk about that kind of thing. So, if you want to go to that YouTube channel, I try not to talk about those kinds of things on this channel. I try to focus on just like the missing, exploited children on this channel.
What we're talking about is that the child is not born yet versus a child that's born.
63,459,781 total abortions since 1973. What if instead of sacrificing children to the sound of beating drums on blazing altars, they merely concealed themselves in discreet brick buildings with forceps and vacuum pumps?
Sorry, just disturbing to watch.
In 1984, one of the most disturbing and underreported cases of child sacrifice was discovered in a Los Angeles shipyard. In a repossessed shipping container, workers discovered over 16,500 aborted babies.
One of them fell down and hit me right in front of my feet. And
oh my God.
It was opened up, and there it was. It was a mutilated body. And the more closer I looked at it, it was a human body. And when I came to work the following day, I saw it myself. I couldn't believe it. And just little bitty babies, just all quarter pieces. Their heads chopped off, arms, legs.
And as it